live. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on?
We're back again.
Yeah, you know who we are, or for those who don't, which is like the rest of everyone.
What movie are we doing today, Brian?
First, I think we have to introduce ourselves, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, who are you?
I am Toller, also known as Brian, and then the guy with the beanie, that guy's Isaac.
What's up?
And then we have Kevin Bendezoo, the last guy out there.
Hey, it's us.
All right, and today we're rolling the film on First Reformed.
You guys actually watched it this time?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
That's-
watched it.
Bro, I watched it as soon as you recommended it.
Brian's like really on it this like last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I was on it. I saw it, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "What the hell happened here?"
This was your pick, right, Isaac?
Was it my pick?
It was your pick.
Of course, it's the best pick yet.
About that. But can you tell us exactly why you chose this film?
I wanted to keep it within the theme of religion because the last podcast should have been the religion podcast. I don't even remember the name. A Serious Man. There you go.
Serious man.
You're making it sound like it's forgettable.
I really did forget the name.
Then why'd you want to keep the theme?
He wanted to pick a better movie within that.
He
theme.
wanted to outdo me.
I didn't want to say that, Kevin, but he said it for me.
All right, I said it. Whatever. I mean, this is a very good pick, Isaac. Round of applause for you. Great job, Isaac.
Better than A Serious Man?
I mean, that's subjective, so I'm not going to say what is better and what is not.
I mean, I thought it was a seriously better.
We can go back to the scoring system later, and we can decide.
All right, we'll see.
We'll
All
see.
right.
Time will tell.
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, for A Serious Man, Isaac was the one who gave it the lowest score
Well,
compared to us three.
Isaac, that was his plan. That was his plan all along.
He did. He knew
low
it.
score, and then picked a film with similar themes, and was going to give it a high score, and say his pick was better.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Criminal mastermind, evil mastermind.
Snake.
Another word is snake. Yeah. Besides you being a snake, can you tell us what you liked about the film? Some first impressions, Isaac?
I hated it. I didn't like any of it.
All right. That was good. All right, Brian.
Just kidding. I liked everything about it. Incredible. I just like I feel like one of the things that I didn't really see discussed was like the lighting in the film. How in Reverend Toller's house, or it's not. Is it a house?
It's just like the off room from the church.
It's living quarters. It's
Yeah.
always dark when he's alone by himself,
Mm-hmm.
drinking, when he's doing his notes. A lot of the time when he's alone, like it's dark, and I feel like it really goes to show like how
Dark
messed
he
up
is.
his life
He's
is.
gloomy. It's like his personality is seeping through into the environment.
Exactly.
That's what I noticed too.
I really like the acting in it. I feel like everyone involved did a really good job. Cedric the Entertainer was surprisingly good in this. I didn't think he would be a good actor. Which they call him by his real last name. I didn't remember it. I think it's like Sykes or something like that. Styles, something like that. But yeah, he did a good job. Ethan Hawke was of course really good. The one thing that didn't really sit right with me was the ending, but we can discuss that later.
Yes. Yeah. What about you, Brian? Some initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts, I liked it. Cinematography was pretty good. I mean, at first it was because I'm just gonna go to one scene specifically, was where Mary shows up to his living quarters. During that whole scene, it's just played out like in the living room, and you can see him in his room, and he walks from his room to open the door, and it's just like the living room's empty. You hear the noise in the background, and just like that whole scene was just kind of like, it kind of got your attention. At least for me, it got my attention, and try to like see where they're trying to take it from there. And they were focusing it all in the living room with that experience, I want to say the least, that took part there, and it was pretty interesting. And I'll agree with Isaac. The ending for me was It was something.
Awesome. I really enjoyed this film. A thing that I noticed and that Ethan Hawke noticed when he read the script, and he said this in several interviews. He said, "I can tell this is the same author as Taxi Driver." And then when I
Hmm.
watched the whole film, it is like that. And then I got that sort of vibe with the lighting as well, because you're right. That's a topic that's not really explored when it comes to dialogue about this film. That I felt like not just his room, but I feel like everything in the film is very low lit. Like even the big churches,
Hmm.
they. I mean, I feel like other filmmakers would have made a giant contrast between that and maybe some of the darker moments in the film. Like when you're in Mary's house, everything is super dark. It's super dim. Even in the
Yeah.
house, it's brighter, but it's very dim. I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
like even the place where they did the burial or the
yes, yeah, super
ceremony.
dark, super
It was
dark.
super dark. It was really gloomy day. Yeah, yeah, totally agree with you. Good eye.
Good eye, and then it culminates very well with the whole environmentalism
Hmm.
and in the film as well. And I feel like listening to a lot of interviews, this is a very impactful film for Paul Schrader himself because he talks about this as being like a culmination of his career in many regards.
Hmm.
Did you? What were you gonna say?
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was gonna ask you what is that something that you picked up on as well? Because I
Uh,
remember talking to you about this film before we reviewed it, and you said you really liked it, and it was by Paul Schrader. And I was like, "Are you a big fan of his? Have you like looked up a lot of his movies?"
I, I've only this was the first I saw this movie. This was the first movie of his that he wrote that I had seen. And then
Hmm.
after this, I saw Raging Bull, which we did a show on, and then a couple nights ago I saw Taxi Driver, and then I rewatched it for this, and I can really see the parallels between Taxi Driver and this film. Um, it's so obvious, like the
Yeah.
nod to Taxi Driver when he's like drawing in his notebook or his journal, right?
Yes,
Because Taxi Driver, Bickle is also doing the same thing. So sort of similar there, and I also think thematically, like they're both really dark films. All the films that I've seen that involve Paul Schrader are dark. So this definitely follows that trend.
he says that he writes similar characters, and they're just in different eras. And this
Mm.
era just happened to be a reverend. He played this
Yeah.
character plays a reverend or isn't reverend. Um, I've heard of a lot of interviews about it. Do you guys want to get into the ending? I feel like we all have something to say about that.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say more in between too,
Okay, what do
because
you want
like,
to talk about?
well, I mean, for me, since I would go to church in the type of churches that I would go are somewhat in a similar style as to First Reformed. It's like a smaller church where a lot of things are broken down. They're trying to get them fixed, kind of thing. Trying to get people to sponsor to get fixed, and then seeing that compared to like the mega style, or what did they call, like mega churches,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
where they pull like a bunch of people in. I think like wasn't our high school graduation at like a mega church, right? Kevin?
It's like a part of. I think there's like a brand of churches. I don't think I
Yeah, so
a mega, but it was part of a.
yeah. Yeah, so like seeing like the differences between like those kind of churches kind of, at least for me, it I was able to kind of see myself in that, a little bit of that, my yeah, and seeing as to how they kind of just played off the First Reformed as the, what is it, like a souvenir church or just like a tourist attraction, and pretty much just having him like, what was it, selling shirts and all this other merchandise off of the, like at the end of his tours. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a pretty interesting seeing that played out, and when I personally experienced it, or at least like even to like a lesser extent of that. So that's, I was able to get more into this movie because of that kind of theme. So yeah.
Nice. Is there anything you wanted to say about the later half of the movie, Isaac?
I really uh the whole the character of like the whole character Reverend Toller is so interesting to me. Because in the beginning, there's a little bit of foreshadowing when I forgot what's the husband's name. What's his name?
Gabriel?
Michael.
Michael.
Michael. Michael asks him like, "Oh, like, are you a drinker?" And then he doesn't say no. But he just
Hmm.
it's like, "Oh no, like that doesn't help. Like that never
Yeah.
helped," or something to that effect. And then after that, you notice he always has like a glass of whiskey or something on him.
Yeah.
You realize how it's affecting his health, and like he doesn't really care. He just keeps drinking, and even when he goes to the doctor, he really doesn't want to do any of the tests. It seems like he really doesn't care about himself, and he's really depressed. And like even the other the leader of the other church like tells him like, oh, like you need to do this, this, and that. And
Yeah.
then he gets angry because like, yeah, I don't know. It's just that whole character arc was really interesting to me.
Hmm.
And I also liked how in the beginning when he first meets with Michael, he was like, oh, like, I don't know, like, why should we be so concerned about the future, this, and that? But then you see Reverend Toller reflecting on that in his journals, and
Yeah.
then later on in the film, when he meets Ed Balk, like he's giving the response that Michael gave him,
Hmm.
and he's like, well, like then who, he's like, oh, who benefits from this? Like, why are we, draining? Why are we ruining the environment? Like, this is something we could stop. But
Yeah.
he seems to care, and then that's when I feel like he loses more hope. And yeah, just that whole, it was pretty interesting to me.
Yeah. See, I'd like to add for that I really like this character because of that. He's not like stereotyp or not stereotypical, but like priests where they try to push on kind of that mentality, like you just have to have hope and it'll kind of solve itself kind of mentality. Kind of like how what was it the leader of the other church was kind of trying to do it. He's just trying to go with the flow, get some cash in, some revenue, meet shake hands with like rich people.
Yeah.
Like he's actually trying to question things and trying to just go along with whatever's going.
I
What about you,
found
Kevin?
I found that despair to be very consistent throughout the film. Um, like, and I don't mean that he's sad throughout. I feel like the motivation for that sort of action is merited throughout the film, where he talks about his past. So his past led him to be a priest, or I mean a pastor, or reverend. Sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, well, it led him to that point, but maybe he went to that point because he didn't have much hope in his life, but he's found that even in the church, he still doesn't have much hope, or that hope can be broken through like the introduction of Michael. I mean, before Michael, he's already. It seems
He
like
was broken because his son was killed in the war too, right?
right, exactly, which led him to losing a marriage, and then he goes to his faith, and then his faith is not helping him either. So I
Because
felt like it made
yeah.
sense. I also felt like that comparison between Bickle and Toller really made sense in that they're both after an authority figure halfway through the film,
Yeah.
where Bickle is against the politician,
Mm,
but only because a girl he likes doesn't likes the politician and not him. So it's very shallow in that way. And then Toller is against him because someone he counseled was into environmentalism. He dies, and he sees that big business is still thriving, even though that at the expense of the earth.
Yeah.
yeah.
So Ethan Hawke also said this was a grown-up version of Taxi Driver, which I found that to be an interesting statement because I don't know, Taxi Driver I feel like is a young man's film. This movie I would say still has some of that energy, that flow, that dynamic energy you're looking for in current cinema, but it also can be slow paced and it can
Hmm.
really drown itself in misery, into the character's misery specifically.
Yeah, I really agree with that point you made about how like in Taxi Driver, it's a lot more shallow, whereas in this film, I feel like there's more depth, and it's not so much attacking just the person. It's more about the ideas and the ideology of that actual person. So I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting.
We're wrapping up on time here. So why don't we go around and
I
do?
don't. Did we go through the ending? Like, what do you guys think of the ending?
Let's go through our initial ending thoughts and final review. So
All right,
I'll go first if you don't
go
mind.
for it, Kevin.
So the ending, I saw Paul Schrader's interview at AFI, and he talked about it. And there was two interpretations. Both I don't really agree with. And he said that Mary goes in, sees him, and then the one interpretation is that she redeems him, like Mother Mary
Yeah,
sort of idea. And then the second one was that God is testing him, and he tests him by saying that uh, I want to show you what heaven is like. And then that's when Mary comes in the room, and then pretty much the idea is heaven is one long kiss. This is what heaven can be. I'm not sure I really agree with that stuff, but um, I feel like the film sets up itself to be um, interpretive in that scene where they embrace each other on the floor, and then they
yeah,
start flying, and then there's like a whole green screen effect. So it's not like it's a leap out of nowhere where you are thinking, am I seeing what is on screen? Is that real? Is that diegetic? What does this mean? Because that idea has already been planted earlier on. So I felt like it lends itself to interpretation, and it was not just one of those what happened ending. Because I feel like the whole time where well, not the whole time, but it's hinted earlier on that there is some subjectivity to this film. So then you guys are going to go around, and then we'll give final grades. So
all right, cool. I don't know. Yeah, the ending was pretty interesting to me. I liked how there was that foreshadowing with that barbed wire kind of seeing as to how what he was going to use it for,
mhm.
and it kind of, at least in my mind, I kind of pictured it like with the whole crown that they put on Christ kind of thing. So instead of having it on him, he's like wrapping himself in that, trying to get himself into that kind of pain. But I don't know. That ending was pretty interesting, especially with that whole scene where Mary and him embraced and kind of became one with the universe. I guess like that's what I was picturing. Like they were embracing and becoming one with the universe and themselves, and him seeing Mary kind of just brought that feeling back to him. But I don't know. Like you said, it's up for interpretation, and I wasn't dissatisfied with it.
I don't know, I felt kind of unsatisfied with the ending because you never really get to see the end. Like you see like his actions and what he's doing, but you never really get to see the full on consequences. Which for me that would have been like that payoff, right? Like, oh, like he's got the vest with the bombs, or like, oh, he's dying, and like maybe is he like just gonna die out of nowhere because he's not taking care of himself? But they chose to end it short. And I guess I didn't like that it ended that way, but in terms of that ending, like just from an analytical standpoint, I think I did like it. 'Cause you sort of expected that to happen because um, he actually liked her, and he actually like you can tell that he cared about her because he told her like, hey, don't go to the reconsecration, like just don't do it, like no matter what, you better promise me, because obviously he was gonna blow everything up, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I feel it was kind of a nice moment. I don't know, maybe it ended on kind of like a happy note in a way. But that whole barbed wire thing was interesting too, with that similarity to like Jesus and stuff. Because earlier, the leader from the other church had mentioned, oh, Jesus wasn't always in the garden. You're always in the garden. Like you need to get
Yeah.
out and do this. And you can tell that he really wanted to be like Jesus in that sense. Um, so I guess that was more of like a visual depiction of it, maybe. I don't know. It was interesting for sure, though. Hard to watch too. That was pretty brutal.
Awesome. So now we'll go to final grades. Just some quick thoughts. This movie also mentioned the Book of Job, very briefly, and I will say that I very much enjoyed the film. It's I don't know. I find it very inspirational. I probably give it an a very high grade. I mean, A24 released a featurette. If you guys are interested in looking at some of the creative choices behind the film, and the reason I give it an A is not only for story and mood and structure, but also because Schrader is he is everything I am not. Like he has an MA from UCLA, and then he became a film critic, and then eventually became a filmmaker. So he implements a lot of ideas from European cinema. I mean, if you look up his influences for these films, they're very I don't even know what to say. They're very artistic. Like he's able to
Yeah.
incorporate that sort of idea, and then obviously he's kept a tone and throughout his whole writing career. So I mean, he's very just consistent. His writing is very strong. It's very good, and just hearing like how he works on set too, like it just inspires me so much. So it's an A for me. I could see other grades, but personally, it's just a phenomenal film.
Nah, that's pretty high remarks from Kevin.
Yeah, I'm surprised, man.
He's like usually the one that's, I don't know, more. Yeah.
I am the more critical one, but I don't think I
Yeah.
get the lowest grades.
That's true. That's
I,
That's
I usually
true.
try and see some positive aspects to every film, and I feel like the
Mm,
positive really outshine in this film.
yeah.
What about you, Brian?
I'd say I was gonna say B plus. Pretty good movie. For me, it's like a pretty good like one time experience. And yeah, I don't know. There was just some scenes that I was just like, damn, holy shit. I'm good.
All right,
So yeah.
what about you, Isaac?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one an A. Also,
All right, cool.
yeah, I really liked just the whole, I don't know, just the whole mood and how, you know, a character that you don't expect to be as rebellious in a sense, you know, a reverend, to question the church. That sounds kind of out there, right? So I thought that whole idea was pretty interesting, and he did a really good job with the execution. Um, and I really like the themes that go into, you know, him not taking care of himself, and then his son passing away, and then just that whole concept of despair. So
All right, well, I think this was another great episode. I'm gonna leave links down below for like featurettes or articles and some other interviews that I watched, so you guys can read them if you want. If not, just watch the movie. It's on Amazon Video. Next, we have a lot of content available. It's already lined up, so you're going to see more uploads. And next time, I believe I think it's my pick again.
Nah, it's your boy's pick here.
It's your pick?
Yeah, it's gonna be apocalyptic.
what?
Oh, okay, nice.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
sure? I don't. All right, whatever. It's going to be a great pick. Be ready, guys. We'll see you next time. All right. Bye.
See you guys.
Later.
That was Rolling the Film on First
First
Reformed.
Reformed.
Nice. Good job.